name's Roger Snipes. I'm a fitness enthusiast. I would say a bit of a biohacker and fitness entrepreneur.
At 17 years old, you were homeless after running away from a poor home environment. Would you mind telling us a bit more about that time in your life?
I think when I was 17, it was, I think it's almost like a journey of self-discovery, really. You're young, you don't really know that much from life. So it's a real fragile stage. And my environment at the time was living in poverty. Many of my friends at the time were involved in a lot of crime. So my circle wasn't the best circle. And because of that, that was my understanding of what the world looked like, because my immediate surroundings was my world. So because there was lots of negative stuff around me, I actually was growing up in with a real negative mentality. And I got involved in all sorts of bad stuff as well, because I didn't know any better. And because of that, it just framed the way I thought. And so I didn't have anything like hopes and dreams. It was more a thought of everything was, I'm just trying to think, like everything was despair and yeah, just no hope. No, there was no future thoughts or anything like that. The only thing I believed was you have to live through crime. Like my dad was poor, my mum was poor. I lived with my dad, by the way, and my dad was poor. Most of my friends was poor. Most of my other family members was poor. So my mentality at the time was, I will grow up to be poor. My dad was also a crook. And so I understood that crime was a way of survival and the way to live. So that's one of the reasons why I got involved in crime and, you know, done things like burglary, robbing people, taking drugs, drinking alcohol. And that's all I understood to be right. So with that sort of thought process and environment, there was nothing leading me in the right direction. That's what it was like growing up at a young age. My dad, because he was an alcoholic, he wasn't just of the fact he was an alcoholic. I think he was trying to drown a lot of his or suppress a lot of his pain, because when he was a child, he grew up in a hard environment as well. He was abused. He was beaten by his father. So all he knew was what his dad had showed him. So I was beaten a lot as a child as well. And so, you know, because of that, that's all he knew. And he was also fed a lot of negativity from his dad. And that's the same thing what he done with me. I didn't believe in myself because he was, well, my dad, he's like my superhero. Whatever he says is the gospel. And he used to tell me that I would never amount to anything. So as far as I'm concerned, it must be true because he's older than me and he must know, he knows more than me. And, you know, because of that, it affected my school. And yeah, like if you're not doing good in school and your parent is telling you that you'd never amount to anything, then it's almost like you think to yourself, well, this must be true because my grades is proof that I'm not going to do very well in life. So it was a very tough point for me. So that's how it started off, like around my teenage era. But it was not until I ran away from home until things started to change for me.
Yeah. And in an episode of your podcast, the Roger Snipes show, which I love, by the way, you mentioned that you were once quite self-destructive and, you know, vibrating in a low frequency. So I guess it'd be interesting to know, you know, what was a turning point for you, or how did you start to, you know, turn things around?
I think the major turning point was when I ran away from home, and when I was homeless, it was probably the worst point of my life. And I guess I was thinking to myself, well, I must deserve this. This is what I destined to become. I then decided, you know, the thing is, I knew where my mother lived. And I remember I felt like I couldn't even go to my mother, because I remember telling her the trouble that I was going through living with my dad, and she said she didn't have room in her house for me. So I felt as if the best option for me at the time was to be homeless. Imagine that. So anyway, I wasn't homeless. I wasn't on the street for too long. I decided that I would go and visit my stepmother to see whether she would take me in.
Yeah.
My stepmother was married to my dad, and she left him because he was a violent man. He used to, you know, abuse her all the time. And when I went to see her, she invited me to stay with her. And she was a great woman. You know, she was a very conscious-minded person. She was well-educated, and she was, not that education is the most important thing, but her mind was just in the right place.
Yeah.
And she always would tell me, whatever my circumstance is now, it doesn't have to remain that way forever. That was like the biggest turning point for me. But there was always little, I would say, seeds that was planted in my head throughout my life, even when I was going through some troubled times. You know, when I was hanging around with the wrong sort of people, something told me that I shouldn't be hanging around with these people, you know, getting involved, like carrying knives around with us, and just getting involved in fights and breaking in houses and that sort of thing. I was doing it because I wanted to fit in with someone. I wanted love, you know. Yeah. I guess that's when people get involved in gangs and stuff like that. I wanted love. I wanted some attention, and I wasn't getting that at home, not the right attention at home. And, you know, when you're with a crowd of people that you feel is understanding of you, you want to do whatever you can to try and fit in. But at the same time, the other things that they were involved in was just not good. And because of that, it made me, my energy always very low. The frequency I was vibrating at was just not good, you know, because it was like, I always felt nervous whenever I saw police. I felt as though if police were to question me, then I would deserve to go to prison. I'm a crook. I just had a criminal mindset, you know, and I was like, I don't want to keep thinking like this. I don't want to keep feeling like this. Yeah. It just feels self-destructive. And at school, the same type of thing. I hated exams. I didn't fit in with many people because there were the kids that wanted to just always be involved in crime. And I just didn't want to be that way. And there was those kids that were like super smart, which I just didn't fit in with. So I felt a little bit isolated. And that just, because of that, the frequency was just not good. And I think the only thing that kind of helped me at the time was like listening to music, drawing pictures. I used to draw comic strips, And it was my way of trying to get whatever destructive thoughts that was in my head on paper. I used to draw a lot of violent stuff, but it was like a way of channeling that energy on the paper, so I didn't have to live it out through my actions.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was how it was. Vibrating on a low frequency because of my surroundings and just a continuous destructive cycle.
Yeah. How then did you end up finding, exercise and all of that? How did you find that as an outlet?
Well, when I was like super young, I used to run away from the police a lot. And like my friends used to say to me, wow, like you're super fast. And because of that, we used to race each other, and lots of like, playground games, which involved running. I discovered that I was pretty quick.
Yeah.
So it was like, I then kind of found a passion in it. I was like, wow, I'm actually good at something.
Yeah.
And because of that, I decided I didn't want to be just good. I want to be great. I want to make sure that I am beating every single person in a race. So my dad used to say to me, look, if you want to be good at running, then you need to prove it to yourself. And, although he was a violent person, he was very regimented and strict in certain things. And one of the things was waking up really early before doing his chores, or if he was working at the time, he was like on and off work, but like he would wake up really early in order to get to the workplace early so that he could prepare himself. In that respect, it was really good. So from that, he taught me that you need to wake up really early and go practice, go running. So I would set the alarm and wake up around about 5:30 in the morning, and go and jog around the park, because I wanted to make sure that every time I raced, I was getting better or beating people all the time. So I was winning most of the races, but there were some guys, even though they were older, I wanted to beat them. So I would wake up and I would go to the park and I would practice running. And because of the sprinting, I started to enjoy watching athletics. And when I started watching athletics on the TV, one of my favorites at the time was a guy called Linford Christie. And he was like a really good sprinter back in the 90s. And I watched him in an interview one time, and he was talking about one of his regiments was weight training. And I remember when you would watch athletics and he was sprinting past the finish line, I would notice like all his ripples of muscles in his arms and even his face when he was running. I was like, wow, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
So this is what I need to be doing. I need to lift weights as well. So I begged my dad to get me some weights, and he actually got me some weights. He bought some really, it was like massive weights with like the sand-filled ones. They were called York. Not the cast iron ones. They were different type of weights. But so he bought me these weights, and I just remember I used to spend every morning, like, trying to build my arms and chest. And when I would go to the shop, I would notice that there were these muscle magazines, which would have these big muscle-bound guys in there. So when I looked at the price of it, I realized that they were really expensive. But for me, I saw it as, well, this must be the holy grail of fitness. If I am to get muscles, then I need to get one of these magazines so that it can teach me to look like one of these guys. Now, the amount of pocket money I was getting was not that much, because my dad wasn't really earning that much money, and he'd be working on and off, but most of the time he was collecting job seekers allowance. So he would give me £1 a week, pocket money. And this was like, I don't know, I didn't get pocket money until I was like maybe 11 years old. And at 11 years old, I was getting £1 a week, whereas most of my friends were maybe getting £10 a week. Some of them were doing paper rounds and they were getting like £20 a week and stuff like that. I saw them as rich. I was like, wow, getting £20. And I just couldn't tell them how much I was getting. They're like, how much you getting? Yeah, I mean, about £7, sometimes £10. I was getting £1. So because of that, I had to save my pounds a week. And at the end of the month, like 4 weeks, magazines were about £3.95. I would use my pocket money and I would buy magazines. And so with those magazines, I would just be like reading all the articles and looking at the different exercises that was in there to try and develop my body. And so I had some weights, and then my dad eventually got me a bench from like a secondhand shop. And I just had this, I don't know, this undying passion that I wanted this phenomenal physique. I just thought, if I have this physique, then this is something which I can control myself. My living environment, poverty, my brain, I might not be able to learn as much as my friends. I might not be able to be as financially well off as much as some of my other friends, but at least I can try and build a physique which is admirable to me. I didn't really care about anyone else. I just wanted it for me. So I would spend days just training. And I was quite skinny. But like eventually I started to put on a little bit of muscle, and it was only like during summertime when I was reveal what was underneath. It wasn't I was trying to reveal it, but obviously it's naturally hot. So I'd be wearing a vest or a t-shirt, and I had friends that were telling me, wow, Roger, you're starting to put on some muscle. And it made me think, wow, maybe this lifting thing is working. Because when you see yourself every day, you don't really notice much change. You just only foresee what you want to look like in the future.
Yeah.
So hearing these things was really powerful for me. So I just continued to push myself. And then I started to notice. And, with that, I was thinking, okay, so the training is working and I'm getting some pocket money. So I'm learning a lot from these magazines. And then I started to do a paper round, and I was earning a bit more money. So I remember the paper round wasn't paying as much as some of my friends were getting, but I was getting like £7, I think £7 a week. Yeah. So with that, I told my dad that if he could get me a fridge, a small mini fridge, then I would like to buy some of my own food. And he got a mini fridge for me. And I think he didn't buy it though. I think because he would work in like construction sites and pick up some stuff which was being thrown away. Yeah. And a fridge just happened to be there. So he gave me this mini fridge. And I remember I used to have a milkman deliver milk every week or a couple times a week. I can't remember how much it was. It was like, I don't know how much it was for bottles, to be honest with you, but they would deliver 2 or 3 times a week. And I would buy some cheap whey protein from Holland and Barrett, and I would buy lots of eggs. And I remember watching a Rocky movie where Rocky was drinking these raw eggs. So that's what I used to do as well. Raw eggs, put it in the cheap whey protein, blend it up and drink those raw eggs. It was disgusting. The whey protein taste now is amazing in comparison. But before, it used to taste hideous. I remember if you left the protein in your shaker for like 2 minutes without drinking, it would form this really solid skin on the top of it, and you'd have to peel off this heavy skin, just like like in a paint tin, you know, like in a paint tin when you don't use it for a while and that skin forms on top.
Yeah.
It was like that. It was hideous. Yeah, so this is what I was doing. I was buying some vegetables and, you know, I was just trying to eat as much as possible. I was just so determined to try and develop this body. And yeah, you know, getting compliments at school, and when it came to sports day, I was getting more compliments. So it kind of encouraged me to push myself that bit more. And I guess because it became so natural to me as I became an adult, I didn't really think so much on like, I need motivation to try to do it. It was just something that I just done naturally on a regular basis, like brushing your teeth or putting on your clothes before you leave the house. Yeah, that's how it was really.
And I guess we're all quite familiar with the benefits of exercise, you know, for mental health, such as the release of endorphins and things. But for you, what is the importance of keeping fit and healthy and looking after yourself in order to benefit your mental health?
Training, it's only part of the picture, and even reading things which help to improve your mental health, like you know, neuro-linguistic programming, you know, understanding psychology to help the way you think. I mean, that's all well and good, but physical fitness is really important as well. If your body is not congruent with where your mind is at, there's going to be a discord. There's going to be a disconnect. So, and it's like you've got some people who believe that as long as you have a six-pack, then that's all that matters. Having a six-pack is really nice to have. And to a degree, it shows that you are focusing quite a lot on the type of foods that you are eating to make sure you're not eating too much garbage. But there's a lot of misinformation on the right foods when people start to think about only macronutrients. So you have lots of people who focus on, as long as you are eating the right macronutrients, so just counting the amount of calories that they are eating, then everything is fine. But that again is misinformation, because you can, although you're hitting the right macronutrients, you shouldn't be encouraged to eat artificial ingredients, which can still cause inflammation in the body. Inflammation in the body is still going to cause inflammation everywhere, not just in the blood, not just in your gut, but it will cause inflammation in the brain as well. And if your mind is not in the right place, if your brain isn't functioning correctly, it's going to affect your mind, and it's just going to create a disconnect. So training is a really important element to put you in the right place. So, you know, training helps to boost cellular health and helps to boost mitochondria, helps to rid any kind of subcutaneous and visceral fat from the body. And if you're eating the right types of foods which are boosting your cellular health, it can also help to boost your serotonin as well, and help to boost your quality of sleep. If you're eating the wrong types of foods, that is going to affect your sleep quality. And if your sleep quality isn't good, that means your growth hormone is going to be affected, your testosterone is going to be affected. In fact, loads of your hormones is going to be affected. So, you know, it's not just about reading books on having a good mindset. It's not just about telling yourself, I am feeling good I am feeling good. Like, repeating these affirmations. I mean, they have a certain part to play. Affirmations is good, but affirmations along with feeling the words that you are saying is really important. They work hand in hand. But if you are not physically active as well, eventually you're going to feel the energy levels is just going to feel low. And if you're not eating the right things, again, energy levels is going to be low. And it kind of stems back to frequency. So you need to make sure that those three things are in place. So you are eating correctly, that you are physically active. You don't necessarily need to be going to the gym. That's just an option. But sitting around watching TV all the time is not going to be beneficial for you. Even if you're watching healthy documentaries, you still need to go out and do some stuff. It's about finding something physical which you enjoy that you can continue to do on a regular basis. Find something that you love doing. Don't force yourself to do something that you don't like. Do something that you do enjoy. If you like walking, then go for walks. If you like ice skating, then maybe try and do that quite frequently. If there's some type of sport that you like, then fantastic. Just try and get involved in that as regular as you can. But foods which are wholesome is very important as well. If it has undergone, if the food you are eating has undergone too much chemical processes, too much factory processes, then you're not heading in the right direction. You want to be eating foods which has gone through the least amount of factory process. You don't want to, like, some foods are going to have some processes to eliminate some bacteria which you don't want in there, which I get. But when you've got ultra processed foods which has lots of artificial additives and ingredients in there, and is said to be healthy, and is said to be high protein and vegan and gluten free and stuff like that, or there's also reduced sugar. You have to question, like, what types of foods are they? If these foods have these sorts of labels on them, chances are you shouldn't be eating them. Vegetables do not say high protein or like vegan or anything. It just comes as it is. It's grown from the ground and you just eat it. The moment it's processed and all that type of stuff, companies are just trying to entice you to buy that food, to look at these so-called benefits. But it's moving you further away from nature. So to improve your mind, you want to be eating foods which is going to help your mind, and it is foods which is less processed, and taking things back ancestrally as well. So just back to nature, doing things like grounding, walking around barefoot, getting some sunlight in, drinking water, which preferably not from a tap, something which is a bit more filtered with reverse osmosis. It's going to be a bit more expensive, but it's going to take away a lot of the contaminants, and then just replace it with some minerals as well. It's bringing it back to nature, bringing it back to where we should be. I think what's happened right now is we're taken away from a lot of things that we should be doing, and we're becoming a bit more lazy, a bit more out of touch with nature, which is creating, again, a discord. So once we become a bit more in touch with how our ancestors were living, I think we'll be doing a lot more better.
Yeah. And with those three things in mind, what's your best self-care advice for anybody listening today?
I think learning how to love yourself. I think it really stems from that. I think that's the most important thing out of everything. I think when we grow up, we're taught to follow rules and, you know, listen to your teacher, listen to your parents, um, listen to your elders, follow what the government says. And there's a lot of things which there's so much rules put in place that we forget to look after ourselves. Even when we get in relationships, we start to focus on the other person and think, okay, let's make sure that my partner is happy. And when we find this job or dream job, we focus heavily on the job itself, making sure that now we focus on survival. We have a job, and it's important that we keep the job so that we can keep a roof over our head. Yeah. And then that self-care and love starts to take a back seat. You know, a lot of people, they say, yeah, I used to train, but then I got this really demanding job, or I started to have kids, or I got married, and then they forget about themselves. They're like, all these other things are more important than me. But I would say that you need to make yourself the most important thing out of everything. So that if anything is to work, you come first. You come first before anything. I remember there was one job that I was working at, and before working, I would go to the gym, and then I would go to work, and my productivity was going down, and it wasn't on any fault of my own. I was trying my best, but it was during the financial crisis. I was working for a subprime lender, and it was really difficult at the time to try and claw our money back. And it didn't matter what I was doing, we was losing money on a regular basis. And my manageress at the time said to me that I needed to come in earlier and I'm spending too much time at the gym. She was like,
what?
Forget about this training malarkey. You need to come in earlier and spend more time in the office to make sure that you are hitting your target. And when she said that, that really opened my eyes. Yeah. I'm like, we're in a financial crisis right now, and I am doing my best, and you want me to sacrifice myself for this job? And I refused to do it. And it turned out that there was many branches that was being closed down, and our branch eventually got closed down and we was made redundant. But I was happy to know that I didn't sacrifice my health for a job which I couldn't save. And even if I could, I still wouldn't do it. It was like, it's been a habit of mine to make sure that if I wake up and focus on me first, and then I focus on anything else, then I know that at least I've done what I needed to do for me, and that I'm not going to be the last person in the picture. A lot of people, when they are doing their job, or whenever they are in relationships, they say things like, I'm in a relationship, I'm married, and I just can't go to the gym, otherwise I feel guilty, and this sort of thing. And I'm like, what is that all about? Like, surely your partner would be happy if you're in good health and you can live longer. Like, what's the problem there? And like, if you are earning a living, then maybe you need to wake up early before you go to the job, or you need to, on your lunch break, do something.
Yeah.
Like you need to find that time for you. I myself, every single morning, I do cycling, cycle for 10 miles. I also do meditation. So to get my mind prepared for an extremely busy day. I know that there's going to be people who demand my time, you know, whether it's family, whether it's appointments, whether it's partnerships, jobs, which I'm doing. People want my attention. So I know that I'm going to need to dedicate my time to other people. But the most important thing for me is to make sure that I have time for me.
Yeah.
I have to have time for me before anyone else. I can't hope that I have time at the end of the day to look, to see if I can take care of myself. Because that might not happen. I'll be too exhausted. So what I would say to other people to make sure that they are living the most fulfilled life that they can is to wake up earlier before your job, so that you can, it doesn't need to be 1 hour. You don't even need to train. If you can't train in the morning, fair enough. But like people who wake up just in time so that they can rush to work, so that they can give themselves to someone else or some company, they need to think about that and just wake up a little bit earlier and give some time to themselves first before they go into their job. Just spend a little time to give yourself some self-love. Tell yourself, go to the mirror, say, I love you. You are incredible. Do your affirmations, have a gratitude list as well. If you could do even a small little bit of exercise in the morning, 10 minutes if you can spare. I'm sure everyone can spare 10 minutes. Do some, body weight squats, some push-ups, some sit-ups, and some dips, just to get you moving.
Yeah.
And just do this in the morning for yourself. This will create a much better day for you.
Yeah, I love that. And moving on to your book, Your Mind Builds Your Body, which was released in May this year. What inspired you to write your book?
I guess it was, I've got many goals in life, and I guess writing a book, it wasn't even necessarily one of them. I always admired people who wrote books, but I never thought to myself I could potentially be an author. I just happened to be surrounded by some really good friends. And one of my friends brought one of his friends along with us when we went to a sauna. So we went to a sauna. We was having a nice sauna session and a nice cold therapy, and we had some nice healthy food. And I was just surrounded by some nice people. And one of the guys that I was speaking to, he wanted to get to know me. And I just started to talk about, now he was talking about my success now. And when I was talking about my success, I also mentioned to him that life hadn't always been that way. Yeah. I said, when I was younger, it was very different. So as I started to tell him about what I had been through as a child, he was like amazed. He was like, wow, and you turned your life around like that? I was like, well, it was a bit of a process, but yeah, it's been a blessing. Life has been a blessing. And he said to me, have you ever thought about writing a book? I was like, I wouldn't even know where to start. Like, writing a book, that would be great, but like, where would I even find a publisher? And he was like, I am a publisher. And I was like, wow, well, okay, let's talk. How do we start this? And that's where the ball started rolling. He invited me to his office, and he had a team of people to, dissect certain parts of my life to see how we can put it in a book where we can help change other people's lives. And it was such a beautiful meeting, you know, because it was just people with great energy, visionaries, you know, because this is what they do. They write books. They've created books for like loads of other successful authors. And I never, as I said, I saw myself doing big things, but I never thought to myself, okay, could I put my experience of what I've learned over life into an actual physical book? But yeah, the opportunity was there, and I was extremely blessed and lucky. That's how it happened.
Oh, I think it's amazing what you've done and how you've changed things around. And yeah, the advice you've given in this interview has been amazing. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for your time as well. I do hope that a lot of people get much out of this. I've got so much information to share. I mean, this is only a snippet. You know, there's obviously my podcast, which gives lots of, I interview lots of inspirational people, lots of people who have years of experience, and even through the books, which I have learned, and that has helped me to progress in my life, I'm still learning. So whilst I'm learning, I take other people along my journey, and I share those bits of information on social media as well. It's a blessing, again, to be in this position to spread the love.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I imagine you're helping a lot of people. I mean, I've learned something from you today, so that's one person. One person out of 1,000, probably.